They told my 8-year-old she didn't get a Christmas stocking because she didn't belong. That was the moment something in me broke. I'm Erin, and this is the story of the night my own family showed me exactly who they were, right in front of my little girl. If this happened to your child, what would you have done? Tell me in the comments, because I still wonder how anyone could say that to a kid. I didn't notice the cold until much later. What I remember first is Lily's shoes, little red flats tapping softly on my parents' porch as we waited for someone to answer the door. She kept adjusting the bow on her headband, trying to make it sit just right. "Grandma likes when I look nice," she whispered, more to herself than to me. The door opened, and the usual wave of cinnamon and pine air spilled out. My mom was already smiling, the kind of smile she used when she wanted everything to look perfect. "You made it," she said, leaning in for a quick hug before stepping aside so she wouldn't smudge her lipstick. Inside, the house looked the same as every Christmas. Strings of white lights, bowls of store-bought candy passed off as homemade. The piano playlist Mom loved because it felt classy. Nothing unusual except the tightness under all of it, like the night had been rehearsed. Lily walked straight to the fireplace. I followed, brushing off my coat, and that's when I saw them. The stockings, 8 of them. Mom, Dad, Melissa, Connor, Grace, Jake, Mason. Perfect handwriting, perfect embroidery, all lined up in a row like a family picture. But no Erin, and no Lily. I stared too long. I knew I did. I told myself there had to be more in a different box. Maybe they switched up traditions. Maybe they forgot ours upstairs. I tried to stop the small, sharp panic from rising, but I felt it anyway. Lily didn't see the gap at first. She was still excited, bouncing lightly on her toes. "Do we get to hang ours too?" she asked, looking around for something to grab. Her voice carried just enough hope to make my throat tighten. Before I could answer, Melissa clapped her hands together. "Okay, Parker stocking time, Dad, phone ready." She was dressed in a blazer over a glittery top, the outfit of someone who was taking Christmas very seriously. Connor and Grace ran over immediately, laughing too loudly, already posing. "Got it," my dad said as he lifted his phone, angling it just so. "This'll look great on the shop page." I stood beside Lily, watching as each grandchild stepped forward. First Connor, then Grace, then little Mason, Jake's son, barely 3, already with his own stocking hanging proudly in the middle. Everyone cheered for each kid like it was a performance. Lily waited, still smiling, still hopeful. Then Melissa lowered her phone a little and said, almost casually, "Okay, that's everyone." Lily blinked. "Which one is mine?" The room went still for just a breath. Melissa didn't even face her fully. She kept the camera half raised, like the moment mattered more on film than in real life. "Oh, sweetie," she said, voice light. "We didn't make one for you this year." Lily's smile flickered. Melissa continued, "Stockings are for family. This is just for the kids who actually belong here. It's a Parker thing." The words landed with a quiet thud. My mom stepped in, trying to soften it. "We kept it simple this year, just the grandkids who come around more often. No big deal." A small laugh followed, the kind adults use when they're uncomfortable, but it didn't cover anything. Lily's eyes moved from stocking to stocking. She pressed her lips together, the way she did when she tried not to cry in public. Her fingers found the hem of her dress, twisting it slowly. My chest burned. Not a loud anger. Something low, steady, old. The kind that has lived in your bones for years. I leaned down. "Hey," I whispered. "It's okay." But it wasn't, and she knew it. I pulled Melissa into the kitchen, keeping my voice low. "What is wrong with you? You said that in front of her." Melissa didn't bother looking guilty. She rinsed a dish that didn't need rinsing and shrugged. "You're overreacting. It's my house, my mantle, my content. People like seeing the real Parker family. Don't make this a thing, Erin." A thing, as if this wasn't my daughter standing there trying to understand why she'd been erased. I walked out before I said something I couldn't take back. Lily was sitting on the stairs, tracing lines on the carpet with her finger. She wasn't crying, not really, just quiet. Too quiet for 8 years old. "Get your coat, baby," I said. She looked up, confused. "Are we going home?" "Yes." My mom hurried over. "Erin, don't be dramatic. It's Christmas Eve. Don't ruin it over a stocking." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. "You already did." No one followed us. Not a word, not a step, not a hand reaching out. Just the sound of the door shutting behind us and the cold slipping in like truth. The car was freezing, but Lily didn't complain. She buckled herself in, stared out the window, watched the Parker house get smaller as I backed out. The lights blurred slightly. I wasn't sure if it was hers or mine. We drove in silence. A few minutes down the road, Lily finally spoke, softly, like the words might break if she pushed too hard. "Mom, do I not belong with them?" My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. I didn't trust my voice not to crack open the whole night, so I just drove, the question hanging between us, heavier than anything I'd carried in years. Before my daughter ever stood in front that fireplace, I already knew exactly where I ranked in the Parker family. I'd spent my whole life learning it. Melissa first, Jake second, and me somewhere out of frame. Most of my memories land at the kitchen table. Melissa's honor roll sheets were taped to the fridge. Jake's game schedules were pinned beside them. If anything of mine went up, it got buried under coupons a week later. Dad's voice always rose when he was proud. "Did you see that throw Jake made?" he'd ask. Mom would add, "And your sister aced another exam." Then her eyes would land on me. "And Aaron, you're our easy one. You never cause trouble." She meant it kindly. I heard, "Stay small and we won't have to think about you." After dinner, I wiped the table while Melissa spread out textbooks and Jake paced with a football in his hands. When the house finally quieted, I went to my room with a spiral notebook and wrote tiny scenes. Families where someone noticed the quiet kid. Parents who looked up when she spoke. By my mid-20s, I was back at that table, hands around a chipped mug, telling my parents I was pregnant and the father was gone. Mom's first reaction was about other people. "What will folks at church say?" she whispered. Dad stared. "Could you really not make better choices, Aaron?" Melissa shook her head. "Well," she said, "somebody had to be the example." 2 years later, when Jake got his girlfriend pregnant, the script changed. For him, it was one of those things, a bump in the road. Mom fussed over the ultrasound. Dad clapped him on the shoulder and said he'd be a great dad. They framed a picture of the baby for the mantle. That first Christmas, his daughter had a stocking with her name stitched in gold thread. When Lily was born, Mom came to the hospital with a casserole and a tight smile. She held my daughter like she was holding something fragile she hadn't ordered. "She's loud," she said when Lily cried, "just like you were." At gatherings, Lily became Aaron's little situation. Jake's daughter was our little miracle. I told myself Lily was too young to understand the difference. I knew better. I just didn't want to admit it. After we left my parents' house on Christmas Eve, the drive back to Columbus was quiet highway and the hum of the heater. Lily fell asleep early, her red bow crooked. When we got home, I carried her up to our second-floor apartment, that familiar smell of someone else's cooking in the stairwell following us up. Our small fake tree still glowed in the corner. 2 red felt stockings hung by the heater, our names written in glitter glue that had started to peel. They weren't fancy. They were the only stockings we had that weren't dependent on anyone's approval. The week after Christmas, Lily went through the motions. She ate, did her homework, watched cartoons, but the bounce in her walk was gone. When I asked what she told her friends about Christmas at Grandma's, she shrugged. "Nothing," she said. "It's fine." One afternoon, I paused outside her bedroom door. She was sitting on the floor with her stuffed rabbit propped in front of her. Her voice was soft. "Maybe I'm not supposed to be in their pictures," she told it. "Maybe that's just for them." I pressed my palm flat against the wall. That one sentence hit harder than any comment my family had ever thrown at me. In a single week, she'd picked up the lesson I'd spent years absorbing. Some people don't have to yell to push you out. They just never make space for you. That night, after she fell asleep, I sat at our wobbly kitchen table with my laptop open. The apartment was dark except for the glow from the screen. My bank app logged me in and pulled up a list of automatic transfers. $150 to mom and dad utilities on the first of every month. $200 to shop fund every other month. Smaller amounts sprinkled through the year with notes like, "They really need it." I'd been helping keep their house warm and their store open. They couldn't make room for one more stocking. I clicked on the first transfer and hit cancel. A small box popped up. "Are you sure?" I was. I canceled the next one and the next until there was nothing left on the screen with their names attached. If my daughter didn't get a place on their mantle, they didn't need a line in my budget. It didn't feel brave. It just felt like finally setting something down I should never have been carrying. When I closed the laptop, my hands were still shaking, but my chest didn't feel quite as tight. I looked at our crooked stockings on the wall, red felt sagging a little, glitter letters patchy but readable. My phone lay beside the computer. I picked it up, opened my contacts, and scrolled until one name made me stop. Noah Reyes, video. A couple of years earlier, he'd come into Parker Home and Gifts with cameras and lights, filming my family the way my parents like to imagine themselves, laughing, lined up for the internet. The finished clip had played on the shop's page with a caption about home and tradition. You'd never know who kept getting edited out. My thumb hovered over his name. For once, I wondered what would happen if the camera pointed somewhere else, at the kid who couldn't even get a stalking. Before I could talk myself out of it, I hit call. The line rang twice. "Hey, this is Noah," he said. "Long time. Everything okay?" I looked at our 2 sagging stockings on the wall, our names still clinging there in glitter. "I need a Christmas video," I said, "but this time it's just for my daughter." Buying back a piece of my daughter's childhood shouldn't have cost as much as a used Honda, but that's the number Noah said, and I agreed before he even finished the sentence. I'm not sure he realized how fast I'd say yes. Maybe he thought I'd need time to think. I'd already spent a lifetime thinking. We met at a small coffee shop off the highway, one of those places with mismatched mugs and a chalkboard menu that never gets fully erased. He waved when he saw me, notebook already open. He looked almost exactly the way I remembered from the Parker store, calm, steady, like nothing rushed him. "So," he said, once we'd both sat down, "tell me what you're hoping to make." I swallowed and tried to start in a way that didn't sound pathetic. "A girl goes to Christmas," I said slowly, "and there's no stocking with her name on it, so she makes one." He didn't write anything at first. He just watched me, the way people do when they're trying to understand where the real wound is. "Is this based on something that happened?" "It doesn't matter," I said. "I just want her to see herself on a screen and know she matters." He nodded, wrote a few lines. 4 minutes short, small crew, rentals, editing, probably around 6. "Done," I said. His pen froze. "You don't want to look at other options?" "No." I didn't explain. I didn't need to. He closed the notebook gently, like he understood more than I'd said aloud. When I told Lily later that day, she was curled on the couch, blanket around her shoulders, hair messy from a nap she didn't admit taking. "Remember the guy who filmed Grandma's store last year?" I asked. She nodded, not looking up. "Well, he called. He said he couldn't stop thinking about how good you looked on camera. He wants you in his new movie." It wasn't the truth, but it wasn't a lie I felt ashamed of. Her head lifted slowly. "Me?" "Yeah, honey. You." It was like someone turned the lights back on inside her. She stood on the couch, nearly losing her balance. "I get to be in a movie?" I'd forgotten how bright she could get. "You do." I handed her the simple script Noah emailed, a short story about a girl who finds her voice during Christmas. Lily read the lines out loud, stumbling once, giggling, then trying again with more confidence. When she reached the line, "There's room for everyone," she said it like she wanted to believe it. We practiced all week. She used a hairbrush as a microphone. I pretended the stove timer was a camera cue. For the first time since Christmas Eve, she hummed while brushing her teeth. Filming started on a cold Saturday morning in the Maple Falls Community Hall. The place smelled like old varnish and whatever the last church group left behind. The small crew moved around quietly, taping cords down, adjusting lights. Lily sat in a metal folding chair while the extras hung stockings along a backdrop Noah built. Their names were printed on neat tags. One hook stayed empty. Noah kneeled next to her. "Remember how you felt at Grandma's?" he said softly. "But remember this time you get to choose how the ending goes." She nodded, serious in a way that made my throat pinch. The camera rolled. Lily's eyes drifted to the blank hook. Her chin trembled, but she held herself steady. A single tear escaped down her cheek. Small, controlled, real. When Noah said cut, no one spoke for a moment. Then one of the volunteers clapped, and the rest followed. Lily blinked, surprised. She looked over at me, wanting to know if she'd done well. I nodded, because I couldn't trust my voice. Day 2 was outside in the town square. String lights, cold wind, kids bundled in too many layers. Lily plugged in a row of twinkling lights with 2 other children. She handed out candy canes between shots, laughing at jokes I couldn't hear. She looked normal again, not healed, but reaching for joy the way kids do when they're finally given permission. Standing by the monitor, I watched her run across the sidewalk with the other kids. Something in me tightened. This simple happiness should never have depended on a video. "This is what it should have been like," I whispered to myself. That night, after Lily fell asleep with the script under her pillow, I sat at the kitchen table with a half-empty notebook, running numbers I already knew wouldn't change anything. Savings, rent, groceries, gas, the film. It didn't add up neatly. It rarely did. I pressed my thumb against my temple and breathed through the fear. I'd spent years budgeting for their store, their emergencies, their expectations. Maybe it was time to invest in something that wasn't a bottomless pit. I walked down the hall and peeked into Lily's room. She stood in front of the mirror, whispering lines to her reflection, hairbrush held like a microphone. She smiled at herself for the first time in weeks. That smile pushed everything else aside. A week later, an email from Noah arrived. Rough cut for Aaron and Lily. He didn't add anything else. I waited until Lily was asleep before opening it. The video started with a slow pan of a snowy street, then cut to Lily sitting by the empty hook. Her face filled the screen, soft, unsure, and brave. Scene by scene, she came to life. At the end, she hung a blank stocking and wrote her name in thick red marker, Lily. Seeing it felt like someone pressed a warm hand against all the places that still hurt. I covered my mouth, trying to breathe through the sudden tightness in my chest. This time, the tears weren't from humiliation. They were from something like relief. My phone buzzed a few minutes later. Noah, Maple Falls is doing a holiday shorts night this year. Local films, Coco, families. I think we should enter this. People need to see it. I stared at the message. I'd made this for Lily. Just Lily. Not for the Parkers. Not for anyone else. But part of me, a part I wasn't proud of, wondered what would happen if the town saw the story they tried to bury. Would they recognize it? Would anyone ask why the girl had no stocking? I set the phone down, heart unsteady, the decision pressing in on me. I told myself maybe 20 people would show up to holiday shorts night. Small towns only pretend to care about local events. By the time Lily and I stepped into the Maple Falls High School auditorium, I realized how wrong I was. The lobby was full. Parents in heavy coats, teenagers with cocoa, older couples shaking off the cold. The air smelled like popcorn and peppermint. Lily held her tiny purse, the one she packed with lip balm and a glitter pen, just in case someone wanted her autograph. She walked close to me, but not hiding. Her red sweater stood out like a bright dot in the crowd. When a couple of parents recognized her from Noah's behind-the-scenes photos and knelt to greet her, "Hey, you're in a movie tonight, right?" Her cheeks went pink. She squeezed my hand 3 times, her silent code for I'm excited. Noah waved at us from the equipment table. He had his camera slung across his chest, filming bits of the night. "For fun," he said. I didn't ask what he planned to do with them. Some moments felt too fragile to question. We found seats halfway down the aisle. The projector flickered to life, humming through the previews. Lily kept bouncing one leg, unable to sit still. I smoothed her hair and tried to pretend my chest wasn't tight. When the lights dimmed, a hush fell over the room. Then Lily's title card filled the screen. A stocking for everyone. White letters against a soft winter blue. The first scene showed her sitting in the community hall, staring at the empty hook. The crowd reacted immediately. Soft murmurs, then silence. It wasn't pity, it was attention, real attention. Then came the scenes of her decorating, smiling, helping other kids hang lights downtown. She'd improvised one line, "There's room for everyone," and hearing it echo through a crowded auditorium made something inside me swell, painful and proud at once. But the final shot, Lily writing her name on a blank stocking in thick red marker. It drew an audible awe from the back rows. Someone sniffed. Someone else whispered, "She's adorable." When the credits rolled, people clapped. Not politely, warm, real applause. Lily looked around, eyes wide, as if she'd never expected people to respond at all. "That's for you," I whispered. Her fingers found mine, small and warm. Afterward, the lobby buzzed with chatter. I had just pulled Lily aside to help her zip her coat when a woman approached, mid-40s, press badge clipped to her collar, notebook in hand. She had a soft smile, but her eyes were sharp, focused. "Hi there," she said, kneeling to Lily's height. "I'm with the Gazette. How does it feel to star in your very first Christmas film?" Lily straightened. "Good, I liked it." "What was your favorite part?" "Hanging the stocking," she said immediately. "The ending." The reporter nodded as she wrote. Then came the question I had dreaded since Noah first suggested the festival. "And what inspired the story?" I opened my mouth, ready to redirect, ready to say something vague about imagination and childhood themes. But Lily spoke first. "Last Christmas," she said softly, "my mom's family didn't make a stocking for me. They said stockings are for people who belong." The words came out clear, honest, exactly the way a child would report a bruise. The reporter froze, pen suspended. A couple nearby stopped sipping their cocoa. Someone whispered, "Is she talking about—" and then quieted. My stomach dropped. I braced myself for judgment, because that's what I'd been trained to expect. But the reporter didn't frown. She didn't wince. Instead, she lowered her notebook. "Thank you for telling me," she said gently. "That took a lot of courage." Lily nodded once, proud and unsure at the same time. Then the reporter stood and turned to me. "May I ask you a few questions, off the record at first?" For a second, I wanted to lie, to protect the Parkers the way I always had, to smooth things over, to keep peace that never kept me. But I looked at Lily, who had just told the truth without flinching. It happened, I said. She remembers it exactly right. The reporter didn't press further. She just wrote, thanked us, and left to interview the next group. Later that night, back at our apartment in Columbus, the heater hummed against the cold seeping through the windows. Lily fell asleep quickly, tired from excitement. I changed into pajamas, poured a small glass of water, and sat on the couch with my laptop. At 10:42 p.m., the article went live. Local girl finds belonging after being excluded from family holiday tradition. The Parkers weren't named, but Maple Falls wasn't big, and everyone had eyes. The comments started within minutes. If it's who I think it is, yikes. Imagine doing that to a child. Not a good look for a store selling family holiday decor. I refreshed once, twice. The comments kept multiplying. Then my phone rang. Melissa. I let it ring twice before answering. Her voice was clipped, furious. Fix this! Fix what? The article, the comments. Tell the paper it's not true. Say Lily misunderstood. She didn't misunderstand, I said. She told the truth. Erin, if our business suffers, that's on you. You think you're innocent in this? You set us up to... I hung up before she finished. My hand shook, only a little. I sat on the couch, breathing slow, willing myself not to crumble. I wasn't seeking revenge. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. All I'd wanted was for Lily to see herself belonging somewhere. But the truth has a way of rolling downhill once it starts. At 11:58 p.m., a notification popped on my screen. New Google review for Parker Home and Gifts. I clicked. Lovely decor. Shame about the owners. Compassion shouldn't cost extra. A minute later, another review appeared. Then another. The tide had started to turn, and none of it was in my control anymore. I closed the laptop slowly, knowing the night wasn't done with us yet. By Christmas that year, Parker Home and Gifts looked exactly the same as always. Twinkle lights in the windows, pine garlands framing the door, a wreath so big it nearly covered the glass. The Parkers never did anything halfway when it came to appearances. But for the first time in my life, I watched people walk past the store without stepping inside. Main Street was dressed up the way it always was in December. Lampposts wrapped in red ribbon, wreaths on every door, the bakery piping gingerbread smells into the street. Normally, you'd hear the bell chime nonstop as customers flooded in and out of the shop, bags in hand. But this time, as I walked past with Lily after a play date, the bell stayed silent. Through the window, I saw exactly 2 customers browsing. Neither carried anything. One of them looked at a wooden sign, "Family begins at home," then set it back down with a tight expression. When she walked out, she shook her head. A mom walking ahead of us whispered to her friend, "I just can't support that anymore, not after that story." The friend murmured back, "Same. I've got kids. I can't even imagine." I didn't slow down. I didn't speed up either. I just tightened my grip on Lily's mittened hand. She swung her hands gently, unaware of the shift around her. She had her own world again. School projects, winter crafts, the little plastic tiara she insisted on wearing after seeing herself on the big screen. She was healing, piece by piece. I clung to that. The Parker meltdown came in stages. First, Donna called. Her voice shook with a mix of fear and outrage. "People are being cruel, Erin. You need to tell them Lily misunderstood." "She didn't," I said. "She's 8. You know how kids exaggerate." "Kids exaggerate stories," I replied. "They don't misunderstand being left out." Donna went silent for a few seconds. Then she sniffed. "You're punishing us." "No," I said. "You punished her. I'm just not cleaning it up for you this time." She hung up with a choked breath. Next came Melissa. Long, frantic paragraphs over text, messages popping up one after another like warning sirens. "Family loyalty still means something. You're humiliating us publicly. Our business is dying and you're acting like you're innocent. Fix it. Fix it." I didn't respond. She tried again the next day, and the next. Eventually her text turned into single lines typed in anger. "Are you proud of this? Do you enjoy watching us burn?" I put the phone down every time. Richard never called, but he sent one stiff message. "This has gone too far." I didn't answer that either. There was nothing left to explain. Then came the online spiral. Melissa kept posting cheerful holiday decor on the shop's Instagram. Ceramic trees, plaid blankets, monogrammed ornaments. For every heart emoji, there were comments she tried to delete before anyone else saw them. "Will you be making stocking tutorials? Do you take custom names, all names? Your store looks cute, but your values don't." She scrubbed the comments as fast as she could, but there were too many. It was like trying to sweep sand back into the ocean. Jake, as usual, slipped out the back door of responsibility. He packed a couple bags and moved to Columbus to stay with a friend. "Maple Falls is toxic now," he told my parents. Dad's response? He's young, he needs a fresh start. I almost laughed. Jake never stayed anywhere long enough not to get a fresh start. At home, Lily and I built our own traditions. We started making paper garlands out of junk mail. We baked cookies shaped like stockings, lopsided too thick on one side, but Lily loved them. On Fridays, we had craft night, which mostly meant glitter glue, construction paper, and a mess I'd find in my shoes weeks later. One evening, while coloring at the table, Lily looked up suddenly. "Mom, can we make stockings for my friends too, like ones with their names?" I smiled. "Yeah, we can do that." She grinned so wide I could see her first missing tooth clearly. There was a spark in her again, brighter than anything the Parkers ever bothered to notice. By January, the town's quiet boycott had grown loud enough that even the tourists felt it. Sales were down, posts got fewer likes. The seasonal workshop Melissa hosted every winter sold only 2 tickets. By February, they canceled it. In March, the lights in the shop window stayed off for 3 days straight. And one chilly morning in April, while driving Lily to school, I saw it, a large white banner stretched across the front of the store. "Going out of business. Everything must go." The window displays were half empty. A box of discounted ornaments sat by the entrance. Donna was slumped behind the counter, staring at nothing. Melissa paced in a corner, phone pressed to her ear, gesturing angrily at the ceiling as if the landlord himself were up there listening. I slowed down at the stop sign, watching them through the window. A younger version of me would have parked, walked in, offered comfort, offered money, offered myself. The Erin I was now simply drove on. That afternoon, when the phone rang again, I knew it would be Donna. I almost didn't answer, but something in me wanted closure. Needed it, maybe. Her voice was flat this time. "You've taken everything from us." I sat down at the kitchen table. "No, you gave up the one thing that mattered." "And what's that supposed to mean?" she snapped. "You chose image over kindness, and Lily deserved better than that mantle." For a moment, all I heard was her breathing. Shallow, uneven. Then she hung up. I looked around the apartment, the homemade garlands, the thrift store couch, the little stockings we'd glued together last week. Nothing matched. Nothing was fancy, but every bit of it was something we'd built together, honestly. For the first time in months, I felt a real breath fill my lungs. Steady, deep, clean. That evening, as I rinsed dishes, my phone buzzed again. A forwarded email from Noah. "Hi, Noah. We'd like to honor a stocking for everyone at the Maple Falls Community Festival. Could Erin and Lily speak briefly about its impact?" Noah added his own message beneath it. "I think this is your moment." I dried my hands on a dish towel and stared at the screen. My moment, or maybe Lily's. Or maybe something bigger than both of us. Something about telling the truth, even when people don't want to hear it. Either way, I knew one thing. Whatever came next, we wouldn't be hiding from it. The first time I watched Lily on a reel set, she was holding a gingerbread cookie the size of her face and trying not to laugh. The director kept giving her tiny cues. "Giggle on 3, sweetheart. Try looking left this time. Perfect, that's it." And she followed every instruction like she'd been doing it her whole life. It was a simple holiday ad for a bakery in Columbus. Twinkling lights, powdered sugar on the counter, the smell of cinnamon drifting everywhere. Lily sat on a little stool, swinging her legs and smiling into the camera as if joy came naturally to her again. When filming wrapped, a woman in a red wool coat walked over. "I'm Tara," she said, handing me a card with her agency logo embossed in gold. "If she ever wants to do more, we'd be happy to have her. She's a natural." Lily looked up at me, eyes wide, waiting for my reaction. I tucked Tara's card carefully into my coat pocket. "We'll think about it," I said, and Lily practically glowed. A week later, we went to the Maple Falls Winter Market. Snow flurries drifted across the booths, and the whole place smelled like kettle corn and pine. A group of older ladies waved Lily over. "There she is, our movie star." Another vendor leaned out of her booth and called, "We loved your short, honey." Lily turned pink but waved shyly. She walked a little taller after that, boots crunching proudly on the gravel. It struck me how different she was from the child who once asked me if she belonged in her own family. Now she knew the answer. At home that night, I wrapped gifts at the kitchen table while Lily played with her stuffed animals on the rug, staging her own version of a holiday pageant. It gave me room to think, really think, about the Parker house. I remembered the perfect mantel lined with stockings that looked like they'd been arranged with a ruler. I remembered the blank space where ours should have been. I remembered standing there at 29 years old, still hoping for the approval I never got. But the truth settled in quietly. I didn't want a place on that mantel anymore. I wanted this life, our tiny apartment, our crooked tree, the slow, steady joy of building something real with my daughter. The past didn't feel like home. This did. On Christmas morning 2023, I woke to the smell of cinnamon rolls warming in the oven. The sky outside was still pale, the kind of winter light that makes everything look soft. Lily ran past my door at full speed. I heard her feet skid to a stop in the living room. "Mom!" she shouted. "Mom, come see!" I walked out, rubbing sleep from my eyes, and there she was, frozen in front of the wall of stockings I'd sewn by hand over the past few months. I'd done it late at night when she was asleep, letting the sound of the sewing machine carry me through layers of old grief. There were 10 stockings in all, lined up neatly across the wall. One said Aaron, one said Lily, and 8 others were labeled with a single word each. Friend, neighbor, guest, welcome, joy, hope, home, belonging. Lily touched the last one gently, fingertips brushing the red thread. "You made these?" she whispered. "Yes," I said. "Our home always has room. For you and for anyone who needs a place to feel wanted." She turned and hugged me so tightly that my eyes stung. For a moment, neither of us said anything. It felt like something old had finally let go. Later that afternoon, after presents and hot cocoa and a movie on the couch, I checked my email. A new message sat at the top of my inbox. Subject line, Festival Announcement. I opened it. They were honoring A Stocking for Everyone as Best Community Story at this year's celebration. They wanted Lily to say a few words on stage. When I read it out loud, she squealed, grabbed my face between her hands, and hugged me so hard I laughed. "Does this mean I get to go on a real stage?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "A real one." Her grin could have lit the entire apartment. The celebration was small but warm. Folding chairs, a simple podium, the kind of homemade desserts people bring when they care more about community than presentation. Noah met us there, camera in hand again, capturing Lily's nervous bouncing before the ceremony began. When her name was announced, she squeezed my hand, and together we walked to the front. The microphone squeaked, and she giggled, the sound echoing across the room. She stepped onto the small wooden box they placed behind the podium. Then she spoke, slow, clear, steady. My mom taught me that if someone says you don't belong, it doesn't mean they're right. It just means you haven't found your place yet. The room erupted in applause. People stood. Some wiped their eyes. I didn't even pretend not to cry. Lily looked at me and smiled, the kind of smile that said she finally saw herself the way I'd always seen her. Safe, strong, loved. When the applause settled, I looked out at the crowd, neighbors, teachers, parents, friends, and something inside me steadied. The Parkers weren't here. They weren't part of this story anymore, not the real one. I turned slightly toward one of Noah's cameras, not sure if I was speaking to him, to myself, or to whoever might someday hear this. "So tell me," I said softly, "when someone tells an 8-year-old she doesn't belong, how far is too far to go to make sure she never believes that again?" No one answered. They didn't need to. In our little apartment with 10 stockings on the wall, Lily had already found her place, and I had finally found mine too. Watching Lily up on that small stage, her hand tucked in mine, I realized she had finally found a place where her spirit fit without question. Our story was never about payback. It was about creating a home where a child never has to ask if she belongs. Life has a way of reminding us that a small act of kindness can steady someone who's been standing in the cold too long, and love builds things that last far beyond anyone's judgment. And when we choose compassion, even the tiniest light can change the whole room. If this story touched you, I'd love to hear where you found your sense of belonging. Share it in the comments below. And if you'd like more stories like this, feel free to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.